The unexpected encounter. Cristiano Ronaldo stepped out of his sleek black SUV, his tailored suit catching the glint of the morning sun. Though he wore no disguise, his demeanor was humble, blending seamlessly with the bustling crowd in the heart of the city. Today was not about football, fame, or endorsements. Today, it was about something personal. Purchasing a car for his mother, Maria Dolores, to thank her for her sacrifices during his childhood. He had chosen one of the most prestigious luxury car dealerships in the city, renowned for its state-of-the-art automobiles and premium customer service. As he pushed open the glass door, the polished interiors reflected a world of affluence. The air smelled of fresh leather and ambition. Vehicles worth fortunes stood proudly on display, their curves begging to be admired. Cristiano glanced around, expecting a warm welcome. Instead, the receptionist barely looked up from her desk. Her bored tone broke the silence. "Good morning. Do you have an appointment?" The question struck him as odd. While appointments might be the norm, the showroom appeared far from busy. Ronaldo, ever polite, smiled and replied, "No, I don't. But I'd like to see a few cars, if possible." Her eyes swept over him, her expression shifting to one of disdain. Despite his impeccable attire, there was a momentary flicker of judgment. Perhaps it was the lack of bodyguards or an entourage, or maybe she simply didn't recognize him. "We're busy today," she said curtly, "but someone might be able to assist you, if you wait." Cristiano felt a pang of irritation but brushed it aside. He wasn't here to make a scene. The showroom had a reputation for excellence, and he was confident the experience would improve. Moments later, a salesman approached, a young man in his late 20s with a smug demeanor and an air of superiority. Without offering a handshake, he gestured toward the more affordable models. "These might be more in your price range," he said with a forced smile. Ronaldo blinked in surprise. Did this man truly think he couldn't afford something more luxurious? Instead of correcting him, Cristiano decided to play along. "Actually, I'm looking for something special. A gift." The salesman's smile faltered. "Special? Well," he glanced over Ronaldo again, his gaze betraying doubt. "Let me show you what we have in stock." As they walked past the high-end vehicles, Ronaldo caught sight of a sleek silver car, an elegant masterpiece of engineering and artistry. He paused. "That one. Can I take a closer look?" The salesman hesitated, a nervous chuckle escaping his lips. "That model is very exclusive. Perhaps you'd like to see something more practical." Cristiano raised an eyebrow. "I'd still like to see it." The salesman relented but made little effort to mask his skepticism. As Ronaldo approached the car, he ran his fingers along its smooth surface, imagining the joy on his mother's face. Maria had spent countless nights working tirelessly to support her family, often sacrificing her own dreams. This car would be a symbol of gratitude, a testament to her unwavering love. But his thoughts were interrupted by the salesman's voice. "You know, this car is over 500,000 euros. Maybe you prefer financing options." His tone was laced with condescension. Ronaldo turned to him, his patience waning. "That won't be necessary." Before the conversation could continue, a young employee walked in. A trainee, it seemed. Her eyes widened as she recognized the man standing before the luxury car. "Oh my gosh, you're Cristiano Ronaldo," she exclaimed, her voice filled with awe. The salesman froze, his confidence evaporating. "Our Ronaldo," he stammered, his face turning pale. The realization hit the staff like a wave. The man they had judged and dismissed was none other than one of the world's greatest athletes, a global icon whose generosity and achievements were celebrated far and wide. But Ronaldo wasn't one to gloat. Instead, he smiled at the young trainee. "Yes, that's me. I'm here to buy a car." The trainee's genuine enthusiasm melted the tension. "It's such an honor to meet you. Please, let me know if there's anything I can do to help." Ronaldo nodded appreciatively, then turned back to the salesman. "Now about that car." The salesman stuttered an apology, his earlier arrogance replaced with unease. Ronaldo, however, remained gracious. "Everyone makes mistakes," he said. "What matters is how we learn from them." As the team scrambled to make amends, Ronaldo's calm demeanor and kindness left a lasting impression. For him, it wasn't about proving his wealth or status. It was about staying true to his values. The story behind the gift. Cristiano Ronaldo leaned back in the showroom's luxurious leather chair, his calm demeanor a striking contrast to the whirlwind of activity around him. The staff, now fully aware of his identity, were scrambling to correct their earlier mistake. Offers of coffee, water, or refreshments were coming from every corner, but Ronaldo politely declined, his mind preoccupied with the purpose of his visit. The young trainee who had recognized him earlier hesitated near his table, clearly torn between awe and professionalism. Gathering her courage, she approached. "Mr. Ronaldo, I just want to say that you've been a huge inspiration to me and my family. My little brother looks up to you so much." Cristiano smiled warmly, his eyes softening. "Thank you. What's his name?" "Matteo," she replied, her voice trembling slightly. "He's always playing football and trying to do your signature moves." Ronaldo chuckled. "Tell Matteo to keep practicing and remind him that hard work always pays off." The trainee beamed, clutching a notepad she'd brought in case he might sign it. But Ronaldo's attention was soon drawn back to the salesman, who approached nervously with a set of keys. "Mr. Ronaldo," the salesman began, his voice carefully measured, "we've prepared the car you were interested in for a test drive. Please, let us know if there's anything else you'd like." Ronaldo stood, his imposing figure exuding quiet confidence. "I appreciate it," he said, walking toward the gleaming silver car parked near the entrance. He paused, running his hand over the hood again, admiring the craftsmanship. But as he settled into the driver's seat, memories began to flood his mind, memories of a time when owning even a simple car felt like an impossible dream. Cristiano was transported back to his childhood in Madeira. The narrow streets of the island were a world away from the luxury he now inhabited. He could still see his mother walking home from the local market, her hands laden with bags of groceries, her face etched with exhaustion, but always lit with a smile when she saw him. Maria Dolores dos Santos Aveiro was the backbone of their family. When Cristiano was a boy, she had worked as a cook and cleaner, often taking on multiple jobs just to ensure her children had food on the table. Ronaldo vividly remembered how she would save every spare coin, sometimes skipping meals herself so that he could buy a new pair of football boots. One evening stood out in particular. Cristiano, then just a skinny, determined boy, had been selected to play for a regional team. It was an opportunity of a lifetime, but it required traveling to Lisbon, a journey they couldn't afford. "I'll find a way," his mother had promised, her voice steady despite the uncertainty in her eyes. And she did. Selling what little jewelry she owned and borrowing from neighbors, Maria had made it possible for Cristiano to chase his dream. That sacrifice had shaped him. It was the foundation of his relentless drive and his deep gratitude for the people who believed in him when no one else did. As Ronaldo accelerated the car out of the dealership, the hum of the engine brought him back to the present. The smooth handling of the vehicle reminded him of how far he had come, but more importantly, of who had helped him get there. After a few minutes on the road, he pulled over near a quiet park and stepped out of the car. The salesman, who had been in the passenger seat, looked puzzled. "Is something wrong, Mr. Ronaldo?" Cristiano shook his head, gazing at the park bench in the distance. "No, everything is perfect. I just needed a moment." The salesman watched as Ronaldo stared into the distance, his expression a mix of nostalgia and resolve. In that moment, the salesman realized that this wasn't just about buying a car. It was about something much deeper, about love, gratitude, and honoring the sacrifices that had paved the way for greatness. When they returned to the dealership, Ronaldo asked for the young trainee. She approached hesitantly, still clutching her notepad. "Would you mind helping me finalize the details?" he asked, his tone warm. Her eyes widened in surprise. Me? Of course, Mr. Ronaldo. The salesman stepped aside, recognizing the opportunity Ronaldo was giving the trainee. She guided him through the remaining paperwork, her hands trembling slightly as she handed him the pen to sign the final documents. As he signed, Ronaldo looked up at her. "What's your dream?" he asked suddenly. The question caught her off guard. "My dream," she repeated, thinking for a moment. "I'd like to one day own my own business. Maybe a cafe, where my family can work together." Ronaldo nodded, his expression thoughtful. "Dreams are important. Never let go of yours." By the time Ronaldo drove the car off the lot, the staff were gathered near the entrance, waving goodbye. But Ronaldo wasn't finished. Before leaving, he stopped to speak with the manager. "I want to commend the trainee," he said firmly. "Her professionalism and kindness stood out. Make sure she gets the recognition she deserves." The manager nodded vigorously, promising to take Ronaldo's words to heart. As the silver car disappeared down the street, the trainee stood in awe, her eyes glistening with tears. For her, the day had been life-changing, not just because she had met her hero, but because of the hope and inspiration he had given her, a journey back in time. The drive back to his villa in the sleek, silver car was tranquil, but Cristiano Ronaldo's mind was anything but. Memories danced in his mind like fleeting shadows, tugging at his heart. His journey, marked by resilience, sacrifice, and an unyielding determination to succeed, felt like a storybook, though he knew it was one that had come at great cost. He had been just a boy when he first dreamed of becoming a footballer. In the humble streets of Madeira, he played barefoot, kicking around a tattered ball made from old socks stuffed with newspaper. It wasn't just a game, it was an escape. For a boy with little else, football was a lifeline. Maria Dolores, his mother, had always been his greatest supporter. She didn't understand the nuances of the sport, but she understood her son's passion. She had seen the fire in his eyes, the way he would stay up late practicing, kicking the ball against the wall of their small home, imagining himself on the grandest stages. She believed in him, even when others doubted. That evening, as Cristiano parked the car in his driveway, he sat for a moment, letting the hum of the engine fade into silence. His thoughts drifted to a particular day that had shaped his destiny. He had been 12 years old when the opportunity of a lifetime arrived. A chance to join the Sporting CP Academy in Lisbon. It was a dream come true, but it came with a heavy price. Accepting the offer meant leaving his family behind, a thought that filled him with dread. "You have to go," his mother had told him, her voice steady but her eyes brimming with unused tears. "This is your chance, Cristiano. Don't let fear hold you back." He remembered the way she had hugged him tightly at the bus station, whispering words of encouragement in his ear. "Work hard, be humble, and remember where you come from," she had said. "We'll always be with you." As the bus pulled away, Cristiano had pressed his face against the window, watching his mother grow smaller and smaller until she was just a speck on the horizon. It was the first time he had felt truly alone, but her words stayed with him, giving him strength. That night, sitting in the car outside his villa, Ronaldo decided he needed to visit his mother. It had been too long since they'd had time together, and he wanted to surprise her with the car. But it wasn't just about the gift. It was about honoring the sacrifices she had made for him. The next morning, Cristiano set off for Madeira, the car gleaming under the morning sun. The drive was long, but it gave him time to reflect. He thought about the people who had doubted him, the friends who had drifted away as his fame grew, and the moments of solitude that had defined much of his life. Yet, through it all, his mother had remained his anchor. She was the one who had written letters to him every week during his early days in Lisbon, reminding him to stay focused. She was the one who had shielded him from criticism when he faced setbacks, and she was the one who had celebrated his every triumph, no matter how small. As the car pulled up to his childhood home, memories came flooding back. The modest house, with its peeling paint and creaky gate, stood as a testament to their humble beginnings. Cristiano stepped out of the car, his heart pounding with anticipation. His mother was in the garden, tending to her plants, her back turned to him. "May," he called softly. Maria turned, her face lighting up with joy. "Cristiano, what are you doing here?" she exclaimed, wiping her hands on her apron as she rushed to hug him. "I missed you," he said simply, holding her tightly. For a moment, the world faded away, leaving only the bond between mother and son. Maria pulled back, her eyes scanning the car parked in the driveway. "What's this?" she asked, her brow furrowing in curiosity. Cristiano smiled, taking her hand. "It's for you, May. I wanted to thank you for everything." Her eyes filled with tears as she shook her head. "You didn't need to do this, Cristiano. Seeing you happy and successful is all I've ever wanted." "But you deserve this," he said earnestly. "You gave up so much for me. This car is just a small way of saying thank you." The rest of the day was spent reminiscing. They sat in the living room, flipping through old photo albums. Maria shared stories from his childhood. Some he remembered, others he didn't. They laughed about the time he had tried to sneak a football into church and cried when she recounted the sacrifices she had made to ensure he could chase his dreams. "Do you remember the day you left for Lisbon?" she asked, her voice soft. "I could never forget," Cristiano replied. "It was the hardest day of my life." "For me too," Maria admitted. "But I knew you were destined for something great. And look at you now." As the evening drew to a close, Cristiano stood in the driveway, watching his mother admire her new car. She ran her hands over the hood, her eyes shining with pride. "It's beautiful," she said, her voice filled with emotion. "Thank you, Cristiano." "It's the least I could do," he replied. "You've always believed in me, even when I didn't believe in myself." As he drove away that night, Cristiano felt a deep sense of fulfillment. The car was just a material possession, but the love and gratitude it represented were immeasurable. For him, it wasn't about the money or the fame. It was about the people who had stood by him, the sacrifices they had made, and the journey they had taken together. The world sees the heart behind the fame. The next morning, the story of Cristiano Ronaldo's visit to his hometown began circulating in local news outlets. While Cristiano himself had no intention of publicizing the trip or the gift for his mother, it wasn't long before someone snapped a photo of him standing outside his childhood home with Maria, the silver car gleaming in the background. Within hours, the picture spread across social media, sparking waves of admiration. "What a beautiful gesture," one comment read. "Ronaldo never forgets his roots. He's a true example of humility and gratitude," another said. Cristiano, however, remained unaware of the buzz. He had spent the night in his old room, which his mother had kept almost exactly as it was when he left for Lisbon all those years ago. The posters of football legends still adorned the walls, and the worn-out football boots he had used as a boy sat on a shelf like relics of a distant past. That morning, Maria insisted on making breakfast. As Cristiano sat at the small wooden table in the kitchen, the smell of fresh bread and coffee filled the air. It was a far cry from the luxury meals he was used to, but to him, this was perfection. "Do you remember how you used to eat half the loaf before I even finished slicing it?" Maria teased, setting a plate in front of him. Cristiano laughed. "I was always hungry. Football burned a lot of energy." "You were always running, always practicing," she said, her tone wistful. "Even when you had nothing left to give, you kept going." He nodded, his expression thoughtful. "Because I wanted to make you proud. Everything I've done has been for you." Maria reached across the table, placing her hand over his. "You've already done more than I could have ever dreamed, Cristiano. And not just with football, with the kind of man you've become." Later that day, Cristiano decided to take a walk through the old neighborhood. He pulled on a hoodie and sunglasses in an attempt to go unnoticed, but it wasn't long before a group of children playing football in the street spotted him. "Cristiano Ronaldo," one of them shouted, dropping the ball in disbelief. Within moments, A small crowd had gathered, their excitement palpable. Cristiano smiled, taking a moment to greet each child, shaking hands and signing autographs. He even joined their game, laughing as he dribbled the ball past them with effortless skill. For the children, it was a moment that they would never forget. And for Cristiano, it was a reminder of where he had come from, a place where dreams seemed out of reach, yet somehow he had dared to chase them. As the day wore on, Cristiano visited old friends and neighbors, many of whom still lived in the area. They welcomed him with open arms, sharing stories of his childhood and marveling at how far he had come. "Do you remember when you broke my window with your football?" An elderly man joked, clapping Cristiano on the back. Cristiano grinned. "I remember running as fast as I could before you caught me." The laughter that followed was warm and genuine, a stark contrast to the often impersonal interactions of his life in the public eye. Here, he wasn't just a global icon. He was Cristiano, the boy from Madeira. That evening, Cristiano sat on the porch with his mother, watching the sun set over the hills. The sky was painted in hues of orange and pink, the air filled with the sounds of chirping birds and distant laughter. It was a rare moment of peace, a stark contrast to the chaos of his usual life. "I needed this," he admitted, leaning back in his chair. "I needed to remember where it all began." Maria nodded, her gaze fixed on the horizon. "It's easy to forget, with everything you've accomplished. But this place will always be here, waiting for you." Cristiano reached for her hand, his voice filled with emotion. "I promise I'll come back more often. I don't want to lose this connection." "You never will," Maria said, squeezing his hand. "Because it's in your heart, Cristiano. It's who you are." The next day, as Cristiano prepared to leave for the airport, he couldn't help but feel a pang of sadness. Saying goodbye was never easy, but he knew he would carry this visit with him in the days to come. Before he left, Maria handed him a small package. "For you," she said simply. Cristiano opened it to find a framed photograph of them together, taken years ago when he had just signed with Sporting CP. He was a skinny teenager, his eyes full of hope, and Maria stood beside him, her pride evident despite the worn-out dress she wore. "I thought you might like a reminder of where it all started," she said. Cristiano hugged her tightly, his voice thick with emotion. "Thank you, May, for everything." As the plane soared into the sky, Cristiano stared out the window, the photograph resting in his lap. He thought about the journey ahead, the matches, the endorsements, the unrelenting scrutiny of the public eye. But he also thought about the journey behind him, the sacrifices, the struggles, and the unwavering love of the woman who had made it all possible. For Cristiano Ronaldo, the visit to Madeira wasn't just a trip down memory lane. It was a reaffirmation of his values, a reminder that no matter how far he went, he would always carry his roots with him. And in his heart, he knew that was what truly mattered, the ripple effect of kindness. As Cristiano Ronaldo returned to his bustling life in the world of professional football, his visit to Madeira lingered in his mind like a comforting melody. The framed photograph of him and his mother now sat on the nightstand of his luxurious bedroom, a daily reminder of the journey that had shaped him. But what he didn't yet realize was how that simple trip and gesture of gratitude were beginning to ripple outward, touching lives far beyond his small hometown. A story that spreads. The viral photograph of Ronaldo standing outside his childhood home with his mother and the silver car had ignited a wave of stories across social media and news platforms. Fans shared their admiration for his humility, and journalists delved into his past, recounting tales of his struggles and his unwavering bond with his family. The narrative wasn't just about a superstar. It was about a man who never forgot where he came from. In a quiet corner of the world, a young boy named Matteo scrolled through the photos and stories on his phone. The budding footballer himself, Matteo often felt discouraged by the lack of resources in his small village. The fields where he practiced were uneven and dusty, and his shoes were worn out, but when he read about Ronaldo's journey from playing barefoot in Madeira to becoming one of the greatest athletes in the world. Something inside him stirred. If he can do it, maybe I can too, Matteo whispered to himself, clutching his football with renewed determination. For Matteo and countless others, Ronaldo's story wasn't just inspirational, it was transformational. It gave them hope, a reason to believe that dreams could be achieved, no matter how distant they seemed. The return to the spotlight. Back on the field, Ronaldo continued to dominate. In a highly anticipated match against a rival team, he delivered one of the most spectacular performances of his career, scoring a hat-trick and assisting in another goal. Fans chanted his name in unison, the stadium a sea of adoration. But even amidst the triumph, Ronaldo's thoughts wandered to Madeira. During the post-match interview, a reporter asked him about his motivation. "You've accomplished so much already, Cristiano," the reporter said. "What keeps you going?" Ronaldo smiled, his response measured and heartfelt. "It's my family, my roots, and the sacrifices my mother made for me. Everything I do is to honor them. Football has given me so much, but it's their love and support that keep me grounded." The clip of his response quickly went viral, resonating with people around the globe. It wasn't just his skill on the field that captivated fans. It was his humility, his authenticity, and his ability to inspire others to hold on to their values. A special message. Days after the match, Ronaldo received a letter at his foundation's headquarters. It was from Matteo, the young boy who had been inspired by his story. In carefully written handwriting, Matteo poured out his thoughts. "Dear Cristiano Ronaldo, my name is Matteo, and I am 12 years old. I live in a small village where it is hard to find proper football fields or good equipment, but I love football with all my heart. I read about how you played in the streets of Madeira when you were my age, and it made me believe that maybe one day I can be like you. Thank you for showing me that dreams are possible. I won't give up, no matter how hard it gets. Sincerely, Matteo." Ronaldo was deeply moved by the letter. It reminded him of himself at that age. The same unyielding passion, the same hope that burned brightly even in the face of adversity. He immediately asked his team to locate Matteo and organize something special. A surprise for Matteo. A few weeks later, a black SUV pulled up in Matteo's village. The young boy stood frozen as Cristiano Ronaldo himself stepped out, accompanied by a small team carrying bags of football gear. "Matteo," Ronaldo called, a warm smile on his face. Matteo could hardly believe his eyes. "Cristiano Ronaldo," he stammered, his voice barely above a whisper. "Yes, it's me," Ronaldo replied, kneeling to Matteo's level. "I read your letter, and I wanted to meet you. You reminded me of myself when I was your age." The moment was surreal for Matteo. Ronaldo handed him a brand new football kit, including shoes, jerseys, and even a signed ball. But more importantly, he spent time with Matteo, sharing tips, playing football with him and his friends, and encouraging them to keep pursuing their dreams. "Never let anyone tell you that you can't do something," Ronaldo told Matteo. "The road will be tough, but if you work hard and stay true to yourself, anything is possible." The encounter left Matteo in tears of joy, but it also left a lasting impression on the entire village. Parents watched in awe as Ronaldo treated their children with kindness and patience, proving that his greatness extended far beyond the football pitch. The Ronaldo Foundation's new initiative. The visit to Matteo's village sparked an idea for Ronaldo. Through his foundation, he launched a new initiative aimed at supporting young athletes in underprivileged areas. The program provided resources like proper training equipment, mentorship from professional players, and scholarships for those with exceptional talent. "It's not just about football," Ronaldo explained during the program's announcement. "It's about giving kids the chance to dream, to believe in themselves, and to have the opportunities that many of us never had." The initiative quickly gained traction, with fans and corporations alike donating to the cause. For Ronaldo, it was a way of giving back, of ensuring that his success could pave the way for others. A legacy beyond football. As the weeks turned into months, Ronaldo's visit to Madeira and his interaction with Matteo became more than just heartwarming anecdotes. They became part of his legacy. The world saw a man who, despite his fame and fortune, remained deeply connected to his roots and committed to making a difference. And for Ronaldo, the experience reaffirmed something he had always known. True greatness isn't measured by the trophies you win or the records you break. It's measured by the lives you touch and the love you give. The weight of greatness. Cristiano Ronaldo's life was a whirlwind of fame, matches, endorsements, and philanthropy. He moved seamlessly between scoring spectacular goals on the field and launching impactful initiatives off it. Yet, amidst the chaos, there was a part of him that often longed for the simplicity of his youth, the days when his only worry was finding a ball to kick around in the streets of Madeira. The launch of his foundation's new initiative to support young athletes had been a resounding success. Stories like Matteo's had resonated worldwide, and the program quickly expanded, reaching underprivileged communities in South America, Africa, and Asia. Ronaldo's inbox overflowed with letters from children and families whose lives had been touched by his efforts. But with this global reach came the weight of responsibility. Ronaldo often found himself lying awake at night, thinking about the sheer number of people who looked up to him. His every move was scrutinized, his words dissected. It wasn't just about being a great footballer anymore. It was about being a role model, a beacon of hope for millions. The inner conflict. One evening, after a grueling match that had ended in a rare defeat, Ronaldo sat alone in his villa. The silence of the sprawling home felt oppressive, a stark contrast to the deafening roars of the stadium. He stared at the framed photo of his mother on his nightstand, her smile a reminder of simpler times. Despite his outward success, moments like these reminded him that even icons weren't immune to doubt and exhaustion. Was he doing enough? Was he living up to the expectations placed upon him? These questions lingered, gnawing at the edges of his mind. To clear his head, Ronaldo decided to call Maria. Her voice, warm and reassuring, was like a balm for his restless thoughts. "You've always been so hard on yourself, Cristiano," she said. "You're doing more than anyone could ever ask for. But you need to remember that you're only human." Her words stayed with him, offering a measure of comfort. Yet the pressure to balance his career, philanthropy, and personal life remained a constant challenge. A visit to Africa. A few weeks later, Ronaldo traveled to Africa to inaugurate one of the football academies funded by his foundation. The academy, located in a remote village, was more than just a training facility. It was a symbol of hope for the community. Children who had once played barefoot in dusty fields now had access to proper gear, coaches, and resources to hone their skills. As Ronaldo stepped onto the freshly laid turf, he was greeted by the sound of children singing and cheering. Their excitement was infectious, and for a moment, Ronaldo felt the weight on his shoulders lift. He spent the day interacting with the young players, sharing stories from his own journey. He told them about the long nights in Lisbon when he felt homesick, the times when he doubted himself, and the sacrifices his family had made for him. But no matter how hard it got, he said, addressing the crowd, "I always remembered why I started. Football wasn't just a game for me. It was a way to change my life. And if I can do it, so can you." One boy in particular caught his attention. Barely 13 years old, the boy had an undeniable talent and a fiery determination in his eyes. His name was Quaim, and his dream was to play for one of Europe's top clubs. After watching Quaim play, Ronaldo pulled him aside. "You've got something special," he said. "But talent alone won't get you there. You need discipline, hard work, and heart. Promise me you'll never give up." "I promise," Quaim replied, his voice steady. Ronaldo saw a reflection of his younger self in the boy, a raw, unpolished diamond waiting to shine. He made a mental note to ensure that Quaim and others like him would have the support they needed to succeed. A moment of reflection. That night, as Ronaldo sat in his hotel room, he thought about the children he had met. Their smiles, their dreams, their gratitude. It all reminded him why he had started his foundation in the first place. It wasn't just about giving back. It was about creating opportunities and inspiring hope. He pulled out his phone and began drafting a letter to his foundation's team. "We need to do more," he wrote. "More academies, more scholarships, more outreach programs. These kids deserve every chance to succeed." The next morning, he sent the letter, setting in motion plans for an even larger expansion of the initiative. Balancing fame and family. Returning to his life in Europe, Ronaldo faced the familiar demands of his career. Training sessions, matches, and media appearances filled his days, leaving little time for anything else. But he was determined to maintain a connection with his roots and his family. One evening, during a rare break, he invited his mother and children to dinner at his villa. They laughed and reminisced, the warmth of family life, a welcome reprieve from the intensity of his public persona. As they sat around the table, Maria shared a piece of advice that stayed with Ronaldo long after the evening ended. "Your fame and fortune are blessings, Cristiano, but never let them overshadow the simple joys of life. A meal with family, a child's smile, a kind word. These are the things that truly matter." Her words reminded him of the balance he sought, a balance between being a global icon and staying true to his values. The ripple grows. Over the following months, the impact of Ronaldo's foundation became increasingly visible. Stories of young athletes achieving their dreams, communities transformed by new facilities, and families given hope dominated the headlines. For Ronaldo, the journey was far from over. There were still challenges to face, expectations to meet, and lives to touch. But with every step, he carried the lessons of his past, the love of his family, and the dreams of millions who looked up to him, a legacy forged in love. Months turned into years, and Cristiano Ronaldo's life continued to evolve. He had broken more records, won more accolades, and expanded his philanthropic reach to levels he never thought possible. Yet, as the accolades piled up, he began to understand that his legacy wasn't defined solely by the trophies in his cabinet, but by the lives he had touched and the values he lived by. An unexpected letter. One crisp morning, as Ronaldo prepared for training, a letter arrived at his villa. The handwriting was neat but unfamiliar. Curious, he opened it and began to read. "Dear Mr. Ronaldo, I am writing to thank you for giving my son, Quaim, the chance to dream. He speaks of you every day, not just as a footballer, but as someone who believed in him when no one else did. Because of your support, he has been invited to join a youth academy in Europe. This opportunity has changed our lives. May you always know the difference you make, not just as a player, but as a human being. With gratitude, Quaim's mother." Ronaldo paused, the letter trembling slightly in his hands. His eyes misted over as he imagined Quaim and his mother, their lives transformed by the very opportunities he himself had once longed for. This was the reason he continued to push himself, not for the glory, but for moments like these. He carefully folded the letter and placed it in his drawer, beside the photograph of him and his mother. It was a reminder of the ripple effect of kindness, a monumental milestone. A few weeks later, Ronaldo found himself in Madeira once again, this time for a much different reason. The town had decided to honor him with a statue in the central square, a gesture of gratitude for his contributions to the island and its people. As he stood before the unveiling ceremony, surrounded by family, friends, and fans, Ronaldo felt a wave of emotion. The mayor spoke at length about his achievements, both on and off the pitch, highlighting his commitment to giving back. When it was Ronaldo's turn to speak, he stepped forward, his voice steady but filled with emotion. "This statue isn't just about me," he began. "It's about my mother, who worked tirelessly to make sure I had the chance to dream. It's about the people of Madeira who supported me when I was just a boy with big dreams. And it's about every child out there who thinks their circumstances define them. They don't. Dreams are universal, and I stand here today because I never stopped believing in mine." The crowd erupted in applause, many wiping away tears. Ronaldo's words had struck a chord, reminding everyone that his story was, at its heart, one of resilience and gratitude. The next chapter. With his career gradually approaching its twilight years, Ronaldo began to focus more on his foundation and his family. He established an annual charity event, Dreamers Gala, where young athletes from his programs were celebrated for their achievements. The event became a global sensation, attended by celebrities, philanthropists, and sports icons. At one such gala, Quaim, now a rising star in a European club, was invited to speak. Standing on stage, he shared his story, his voice filled with emotion. "I come from a small village where opportunities are rare, but someone believed in me when I needed it most, and that changed everything. Mr. Ronaldo, you didn't just change my life. You gave me the courage to believe in myself." The audience erupted in applause, and Ronaldo, sitting in the front row, couldn't hide his tears. Seeing Quaim's success was a full-circle moment, a testament to the power of paying it forward. A private revelation. One evening, after the gala, Ronaldo sat with his mother on the terrace of his villa. The stars glittered above, the air cool and still. They sipped tea, the warmth of the moment a stark contrast to the busy life Ronaldo usually led. "You've done so much, Cristiano," Maria said, her voice soft. "But I see something in your eyes tonight. What is it?" He hesitated, then smiled. "I was just thinking about everything we've been through. About how different life could have been if you hadn't made the sacrifices you did." Maria reached for his hand, her touch grounding him. "We don't need to think about what could have been. Look at where we are now. Everything you've done, every life you've touched. It's because you've stayed true to who you are." Cristiano nodded, his heart full. "I just want to make sure I've done enough, May. That I've honored what you gave me." Maria smiled, her eyes shining with pride. "You've done more than enough, Cristiano. You've shown the world that greatness isn't just about talent. It's about heart." A legacy secured. In the years that followed, Ronaldo continued to balance his life as a footballer, philanthropist, and family man. He retired from the sport on his own terms, leaving behind an unparalleled career. His foundation expanded to over 50 countries, supporting countless young athletes and communities. But for Ronaldo, the true measure of his legacy wasn't in the numbers or accolades. It was in the letters he received from children like Matteo and Quaim. It was in the smiles of his family. And it was in the knowledge that he had lived a life of purpose, guided by love and gratitude. As he stood one final time in the stadium where his career had begun, the crowd roared his name. But amidst the deafening cheers, all Ronaldo could hear was the voice of his mother, whispering words that had carried him through every challenge. "Work hard, be humble, and remember where you come from." And he had.